Welcome to The Conspiracy Show. My name is Richard Syrett. Reincarnation, according to a number of Eastern religious practices, is a process whereby the soul or spirit, after the death of the body, is believed to return to live in a new human body. Now, assuming we are reincarnated, the question then arises, is it possible to remember and re-experience parts of a previous life through a process called past life regression? Past life regression is a technique that uses hypnosis to recover what practitioners believe are memories of past lives or incarnations, although others regard them as fantasies or delusions. We'll witness an actual past life regression and then meet the internationally renowned hypnotherapist who says she's helped countless clients remember previous lives. We'll meet the individual who underwent the regression before our cameras, and we'll meet a genealogist who conducted research on behalf of The Conspiracy Show to determine if the past life remembered during the regression represents an actual person. We'll also meet a skeptic who insists that hypnosis as a method of recovering repressed memories misrepresents memory as a faithful recording of previous events. The use of hypnosis and suggestive questions, he asserts, makes the subject particularly likely to hold distorted or false memories. Me, I just want the truth, and I'm willing to follow it wherever it leads. It is time to redefine reality. Genetic enigma or a human alien hybrid. That's how cynical I am about the process. Is it possible technology can alter weather patterns?
Created by the
has been engineered by the Illuminati?
There's no doubt.
I'm here in Toronto, Canada, at the Hypno Healing Institute with Debbie Papadakis, a consulting hypnotherapist. Debbie, welcome to The Conspiracy Show.
Thank you.
How does a past life regression work? What is the methodology behind it?
Past life regression works in a sense that we go back into our own inner memories and bring back those memories. And if we can see them, understand them, resolve them, we can improve our lives. Edgar Cayce said that archaeologists go and dig down the earth to find the artifacts. Past life therapists are going back to discover what is inside of us, our old artifacts, in order to improve our lives.
Do you believe that one can experience or remember a previous life through past life regression?
Yes, I definitely believe that we can go back and experience it, feel it, live it basically, and then we can bring back those memories easily.
The idea of past life regression is just a popular myth. It's a permutation, and just like ghosts, we don't really die. This is an important message. Most of the paranormal is predicated on this idea that wonderful things are possible. So flying saucers have the message that we are not alone in the universe, and ghosts and reincarnation, the idea that we don't really die, and we're all for that. Psychics have the happy message that we can foresee the future. We don't have to be so apprehensive about it. But these are big promises, but there's not much in the way of real evidence.
You've heard skeptics who would suggest that hypnotism does not provide an accurate representation of the memory, that the human mind is very imaginative. We tend to fill in the blanks and create things.
If I only had done a couple of them, I might have, in the beginning I was questioning myself, is this real or not?
I have to attend a lady giving birth, and her feet is on the water, and we'll try to calm her down. She's screaming.
The human mind is very imaginative, we tend to fill in the blanks and create things.
But after done thousands of them and see the situations and the descriptions and the emotions they feel, and if I ask them questions or I ask them to think of something else at the time, they go back to it. In other words, I will ask a question that does not fit in the picture, they'll take me out. If it was only imagination, you can take the people much faster out of the situation. Give me the first letter of the name. First, Arizona. Just take a deep breath, relax. You're safe and secure here right now. It's okay. Just relax. Just go back and describe what's happening there.
Some of the tribe has been killed.
Some of the tribe
Was killed.
even in Charlene's situation, she was there, so I could see her. Her eye was, the body language, her eyes there, her whole being is there totally. Now, if she was just imagining, she cannot come up to this depth of the emotions. Also, I've seen thousands of people I have worked with. After weeks, they still reliving it. They discovering more things. This session is not finished yet. She's going to be experiencing more and more issues, meaning resolving issues or finding more details as the time passes. So if I just imagine something, it will not have that depth.
If you regress the person, the idea that we're going to take you back, and now we're taking you back to birth, and now we're going on further back, you're planting an idea right there. And then we can go back to a time period, and once you or the hypnotherapist stops at a particular place, like the Civil War, and I ask you to look around and what do you see? Well, now you have some idea of the Civil War, and maybe you see cannons firing, and you see soldiers, and you see people in a certain kind of dress, and so on. And you may be able, out of your own imagination, to put together a pretty believable picture of a time period.
Debbie, the other thing a skeptic would say is that it's possible for the regressee to be influenced by the therapist. How do you respond to that?
It can be. It can be. That's why we have to be trained properly to ask the proper questions. If we ask leading questions, they may take that information and go for it, but it won't go very far. So we have to know how to ask the questions.
My name is Michael Anderson.
Where are you right now? Train station. Are you going where?
That's what the calendar is, 1939, 1929.
Oh, it's on 1939 or 1929. Where are you going? What city are you going to?
Where I'm going is a house, big house. It's also on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like I've been there before.
What's the event?
I have to attend a lady giving birth.
Mm.
There is Mrs. Collingwood.
Collingwood.
Helen Collingwood.
Helen.
Her husband is on overseas, they said. looks like a nurse, but it's not a nurse. It's a young lady there helping her, putting some kind of rugs on her face, and her feet is on the water, and we'll try to calm her down. She's screaming. So she won't allow me to put something on her arm.
Did it feel real to you?
I feel that the lady was feel very, very real to me. I have to attend a lady giving birth. Mrs. Collingwood.
The information that we get, or I was given, tend to be fairly general. In some cases, there's no specific location. Some places there is. And in other cases, there's no specific date, so there's just generalities.
What are the challenges that this past life regression and the details that came from it presented to you?
Unless you know the spelling or very close to the spelling of a name or name of a place, sometimes it's very hard to research.
And how do you go about researching someone's roots?
You start with the marriage certificates where I start, and then I go to a census if it happens to be in a census period and go back from there. Censuses are the main focus for me for finding families, because you can find them every 10 years, for instance, in a country, and it tells you who their children were and where they were born and things like that. So, and it just goes from there. Now, there's different ways of finding other information, like birth, marriages, deaths. They all give you a certain amount of information, and are all help to build the overall picture. There's city directories, voters lists.
Did it feel real to you?
I feel that the lady was feel very, very real to me, because I felt some kind of stress in my body. Try to put some kind of medicine into her body so it can calm her down.
Do you remember taking a train?
Yes, I do. And then I went to some kind of platform.
I believe he believed he was catching a train, or he was leaving a place called Canberra Station, which is an uncommon name. It's not a place that everyone's heard of. On the research I did, I found 2 locations for that particular place. One happened to be in Ontario, near Lindsay, Ontario. Another one was in Australia, near Perth.
My name is Michael Anderson.
He did provide the names of family members.
Also, yeah. What I did was, I tried focusing on the Canadian one first, like the Canberra Station, if in fact that was a place. So there, as I said, there was a place called Canberra Station.
Okay, what's the name of your mother?
Judy.
Judy. And your father?
Which is good, because that's a unique name, Gabriel Anderson. You don't find that. But I couldn't find any Gabriel Anderson, and his mother's name, I believe, was Judy. What I did, I went back through all the census of Canada and put in Gabriel Anderson, and I couldn't find any, nor Judy Anderson, and neither the two in the same household together. There's lots of Michael Andersons. And in fact, there was only one between 1950 and 1930, or pardon me, 1850 and 1930, there was only one Gabriel Anderson appeared on a census in Canada, and that was in Saskatchewan. And they had immigrated to Canada in the early 1900s from Sweden, but his wife's name was something like Ingeborg or whatever, not even close to Judy. So I don't believe that was the same one. And they didn't have any boys on the 2 censuses that I looked at named Michael. What I did was I looked on some electoral rolls in Australia, around the Perth area, for Michael Anderson, and I had several hits. He lived in the 1900s. We probably lived before that too, but a voting age. He was at Perth, which looked good to start with. I said, this might be a man.
She's not ready for the baby, but she has some kind of sickness. She's got fever and has pain in the stomach.
And the location in Australia?
Australia is a little harder to search because the census aren't available online. Birth records aren't available either. So what I did was I looked on some electoral rolls in Australia, around the Perth area, for Michael Anderson, and I had several hits. There was a Michael Anderson. There was two of them actually. One was on once only, but there was a gentleman by the name of Michael Graham Anderson. But he lived in the 1900s. We probably lived before that too, but a voting age. He was in Perth, which looked good to start with. I said, this might be our man, but he wasn't a doctor. He was they call a stereotypist, which is basically a typesetter nowadays, okay? So he's a printer, basically. So I checked his father's name there, which is Gabriel. Couldn't find him either, so.
Based on your preliminary research, what can you tell us about the likelihood that there was an actual Dr. Michael Anderson?
Dr. Michael Anderson, there is several Dr. Michael Andersons still living, but based on the information I was given, being his parents, being Gabriel and Judy, I believe that there's no such person.
They don't have to believe it, yet they can have totally healing sessions through this work. We basically go back to our memories that are inside of us. And if we bring these memories outside and through different techniques, we can resolve issues that in a normal way, they can take years to be resolved. But we can go back to a past life, and by clearing that little, maybe tiny event, by reversing it, changing it, reframe it, just looking at it, understanding it, we can come back and the problem is most times solved. At some point though, we have to relive it in order to release it. If we don't relive it, we don't know what we're releasing. So we have to bring the emotion up and then we deal with it.
The false memory seems like a very powerful thing, because I've witnessed past life regressions and seen people actually weep. And the emotion seems very genuine.
Oh, absolutely, and I think that is true. You're bypassing when you're in this relaxed state. It's a state in which you're very vulnerable, and you're very open. You're very open in that state, and therefore very vulnerable. And so, naturally, if you're imagining yourself in the role of someone, it's like method acting. If I ask you to go somewhere in your mind, and when I shoot you and I say bang, you fall down, you can act that fairly realistically, because for the moment you believe it. You are being shot and you fall down. And so a person who's imagining a situation that's would cause one to cry will cry. They're believing it for the moment. It's sort of like method acting. You really get into it, and you don't have to fake it so much, because for that time you sort of are in that role.
We are in this earth in order to lift our consciousness. So we sometimes come with people that we have unresolved issues. And if we have unresolved issues in a past life with people, then we come back to this life to resolve those issues in order to elevate our soul.
To date, I have witnessed about a half dozen past life regressions. Now, I don't happen to believe in the concept of reincarnation, so what's happening here? Are the therapist and the regression subject perpetuating a hoax? I don't believe so. I think a far more likely scenario is these memories are created by the mind's imagination during the regression. It's also possible these memories come from the regression subject's ancestors. In other words, these are memories stored in our DNA. It's fascinating. And of course, it's also possible that I'm wrong. Reincarnation is real, and that a past life regression opens a door to a previous life. And now I'd like to know what you think. You can contact me here at The Conspiracy Show through the website, www.theconspiracyshow.com. In the meantime, don't be afraid.